So you've activated, installed, and hooked in your license key for Facebook events. Awesome. Now we want to take to the next step, and we want to check out the settings and what controls you have as a site administrator that you can use to import your events. The next screencast in part 3 will focus on the actual import process itself. Here we're just going to be reviewing settings. From the dashboard of my site, I'll click into the Events left-hand admin option, and I'll go down into Settings here. And as you saw in the last screencast, by activating the Facebook Events plugin, we created, by default automatically, this new Facebook tab. I'm going to click into it, and it gives me all the information that I'm going to need and all the settings I'm going to need that relate to this Facebook plugin. Right off the bat in the Getting Started area, you're going to notice there's quite a few references to a Facebook app ID and an app secret. You will have to create one for the plugin to work. Previously, before June 2013, Modern Tribe bundled our own default one, so if you didn't want to create one, you had one accessible anyway. But starting in June 2013, to accompany the Events Calendar 3.0 lifecycle, this is required. So if you want to use the plugin, please make sure that you create a Facebook app ID and app secret. There's a couple links across this page that'll take you over to resources on Facebook's site that'll show you how you can do this and walk you through the process of creating such an account. We also provided one over on the Modern Tribe site that Jonah from our team put together, how to create a Facebook app ID. Between this and between what Facebook themselves provides, you should have plenty of options to create the app ID. And it's worth noting that if you get stuck in the process, that's something you're going to unfortunately have to reach out to Facebook on, because we have absolutely no control over the app ID creation process itself. That said, this should get you where you need to go, and if you get down once you've created the actual app ID and app secret, you can see that you have the ability of syncing with Facebook pages or organizations. You cannot sync with personal profiles, so if somebody put out a personal event on their own personal profile, that's not going to work. Right now, the plugin only works with pages and organizations. And this little blurb just kind of walked through how it works. You grab the link, you grab the event ID, whatever you want to do. We're going to walk through both of those in this screencast and in the next one. But this shows you how you can choose the username you want to sync with. Let's keep going to the settings so I can show you how this works and what that means. The first area is account settings, and the Facebook app ID and app secret we just walked through. Once you have those generated, plug them in here into the appropriate fields. They're going to look similar to this, although obviously they're not going to be the same string of numbers. Organizations and page usernames that you want to fetch from. This is where you actually can say, okay, I have a handful of accounts that I want to be able to pick and choose the events I take. Look over here on my Facebook tabs that I have open. I have 3 different accounts that I want to be able to do this with. One is a local food truck organization here in the Bay Area. I'm going to copy their name and plug it in here in the first line. Go down to a new line, go into my next Facebook tab where it's a band that I like to listen to. They put out events that I'd like to see when they're coming around. I'm going to take their name, or again, it's always just what comes right after the facebook.com/. Copy it, drop it in on a new line here. And I'm going to do it for the last one, Uptown Nightclub, a bar in my neighborhood. Again, just take their name, drop it in. And that's all I have to do. When I save, and we're going to see this in Screencast 3, I'll be able to import from these accounts. If I don't put them on separate lines, I'm not going to be able to have it work, so make sure that you do this separate line treatment. Then we get down into the import settings, which is where we decide, okay, as events are imported, what do we do with them? The default status to use for imported events lets you say, do I want them to be published automatically? Do I want to have them go to draft, or do I want to have them go to pending review? If you want to have any administrative oversight or control over this, it's probably good to go with draft or pending review, at least to start, because published means it's just going to automatically go live. Enable Google Maps on imported events allows you to turn on the maps on the front end for these events that you've imported from Facebook. But keep in mind that you do have to have Google Maps on the General Settings tab for the events calendar enabled, or this is not going to take effect. Unless maps are enabled for the overall calendar plugin, they're not going to impact the events that are imported from Facebook. You can also enable auto-importing. Auto-importing lets you turn on and automatically import events from an account so that you don't have to manually go in and do it yourself. You can select it and automatically have events import at a set interval, and that set interval is determined in this drop-down down below. You can go with hourly, twice daily, daily, or weekly. Whenever you're done making your changes here, as usual, just hit save, and you'll be all good. That walks through the settings panel. Now in Screencast 3, let's walk through actually setting up and importing some events from Facebook. Stay tuned.